Hello and welcome back to DriveDriverDriven. I'm Humble and we're back again on the Blunicorn rebuild project. Today, since most of the body pre-fit is done, I'm checking fitment on the wheels and tires. Now there's a little bit of a story here. So when I ordered the upgrade parts for the RS, I kind of sprung for the whole bunch. All the carbon fiber bits, all the aero upgrades, the body, etc. And I went for the 19-inch wheels. I knew that fitting the 19s was going to be a little bit tight, but I figured if the 335 18 in the rear fits and the 265 18 in the front fits, it should be nothing doing. So I got the rims from Ultima. They're beautiful 19-inch braid wheels. Same supplier that supplied the 18-inch wheels. And I went ahead and ordered tires. Now, when I ordered my tires, I just went by 19-inch fitments that were somewhat aggressive, figuring that they would be pretty close to the 18-inch fitments. I was right, they were pretty close, but they didn't fit, not even a little bit. That's what a $2,000 mistake looks like. These were the front tires, and these were a 265 35 19, and these were the rear tires, which were a 325 30 19. Looking over here at the stack of wheels, the black wheels are my 18s. These are the beautiful new 19s that I showed earlier. This is a 265 30 19, and these rears are a 305 30 19. Now that doesn't seem like much, but on the fronts, that small difference in aspect ratio made about a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch difference. And on the rears, I think it made about an inch difference in overall tire diameter. An inch doesn't seem like much, a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch doesn't seem like much. But when you've got the tire fully tucked like this, and you look inside, that's the difference we're talking about, whether it fits or it doesn't fit. And again, right up in here, and then all the way up around in here. Plenty of clearance here. But that's how tight it is. So a 305 fits. A 310, a 315, a 325 will not fit in that little area. It's just too tight. So, fair warning to other Ultima owners, don't get too greedy on your tire sizes. Now, back to the subject at hand, tire fitment. There's a couple areas that you really need to look for tire clearance on the body. And there's a couple ways that you need to do a full check for tire fitment on the body, the splitter, etc. So in the rear, as you can see, I've already got the tire fully tucked. This is full compression, shock into the bump stop. During track use, really the only time you'll see this kind of situation is, I would say, bottom of the corkscrew at Laguna Seca on the outside tire. There's just so much compression that you might actually see this happen. And that's why any little bit of clearance, as long as it clears, that's what we want. So now we have full extension of the shock. Again, really, really tight down here. And really, really tight back here. But everything clears. The body touches the tire when you're pulling the rear clamshell open at full droop, but typically this isn't a situation you're going to see. The suspension will be compressed under the car's own weight, so you're not going to have to worry about this too much. But again, if you're at the track or something like that, and you have an unloaded tire coming down full droop, you still have clearance, no rubbing. All right, now as far as what I had to cut away, I had to clearance this wheel well all the way around. So this kind of guideline here is I took a Sharpie and just laid it out here and drew down, marking that line on the body, because I didn't want this lip to come above this section here on the side pod. That way any debris, anything like that, any rocks that are coming in will hit this and then go back down in there, rather than all over the fuel tank area. So what I did was I just marked this line to make sure that I left enough material down here so that that couldn't happen. Don't worry too much about this area, because that's up here where this bit comes up. As far as this little jog on the side, this is just the 305/19. Next we're going to test fit the 335/18, which is a little bit wider, and the offset is just a little bit different, and that tire comes in a little bit more. All right, so here we are with the old 18-inch wheels. I'm probably going to keep these for track duty, mostly just track duty on warm to hot days. Most of that has to do with the compound on the tire. So these are Toyo R888Rs, and what I found was it was difficult to warm them up and keep them warm in cooler track days. So I think this is more of a summertime track day tire, maybe a fall for some of the warmer tracks, and then the 19-inch wheels might be track day wheels for cooler days, because the Sport Cup 2s will grip a little bit better and they'll come up to temp faster than these tires will. Back on the subject of our fitment, you can see down here in the front, again, this is at full droop. We have just a little bit of clearance, and then same thing in the back here, just a little bit of clearance there. You can see what I was talking about on the back of the tire, and how the offset takes the back of the tire inside a little bit more than the 19s did. Some of that has to do with the fact that this is a 335 versus a 305, and that where that offset is made up is mostly on the back side. And here we are at full tuck. This is the tire basically fully into the wheel well. It looks like it's tight here, but if you look inside, again, just the tiniest amount of clearance. Ditto over here, just the smallest amount on this little bit of inner fender well. And again, if we look back, there's about a finger's width all the way back around the back of the tire. It's a tight fit, but clearance is clearance, so I'll run it. So that's the rears in a nutshell, and really the biggest areas for concern were right here, where the tires were touching the body before with the larger 19-inch, and this just barely gets away with it. As I mentioned, you just got to trim these wheel tubs a little bit to fit the tire, and really the best way to do that is to run the tire at full droop and then full compression, and then mark your areas of interference and then trim back. And the process is just tedious, you know, trim a little bit, test it again, trim a little bit, test it again, but that's how you'll get a perfect fit under full compression and full droop on the rear suspension. All right, from the rear to the front now, there's a few more things that you need to check when doing the front wheels and verifying your clearance all the way around. Not only do you need to go full bump and full droop, but you also need to go lock to lock on your steering in both of those positions to make sure everything clears. Now, as I mentioned before, I got greedy and I was trying to run a much bigger, well, not much bigger, but a bigger front tire size. And even at full droop with the wheel straight, it would touch down here, and it no longer does. That was actually a problem I had previously in the last iteration, is at full droop, my front wheels would contact the side pod down here. Some of that was just down to the way I fitted the side pods, and that was purely on me, and that was something, you know, one of my get around to it's that never got around to before the fire. For those that are assembling their car and you need clearance down here, with the side pod not necessarily fastened on the inside up top, but with it bolted in up here on the center tub, when you're doing your fitment and before you set everything in place, you can pull on this bottom lower ledge and pull it out a little bit to give you the clearance you need. And then when you're happy with what you have, you can lock it in place by putting your first rivet in down below here. And that'll help set this position so you don't have any rubbing issues at full droop. If we take the tire all the way through its steering angle, you can see it doesn't rub. It gets really close, but again, no rubbing. On the front, you have the front splitter area. Now on the RS, you have this nice carbon splitter that attaches to the chassis itself, and it's cut out to clearance the tire, so you don't really have to worry about too much. And then likewise, again, when you're turning, it doesn't really come close down here. On a standard splitter for an Evo, or if you don't opt for the RS style front splitter and you have the one that mounts under the nose, you may have to clearance where it comes off in back this area. It just depends on the depth in which you fit the splitter, because the splitter on those options actually mounts to the bottom of the front clamshell, not on the chassis. So you may have to play with your fitment a little bit before you finalize its position. So that's at full droop. Let's see how it looks under full compression. So I'm going to leave the nose up for a moment, but again, to check clearance on the side pod, it's just easier to do with the hood up. But I've got a full finger width in there. Nice clearance swinging through the arc. Again, this was an area that would rub previously, just because it was a really tight clearance. If you're rubbing up here, there's not too much more. I mean, like I said, you can pull the bottom out down here, but that's not going to move the top too much. In that case, your side pod may be too far forward. And likewise, if it was rubbing on the rear tire back here, it may be too far backward. Some of the suggestions from Jeff at the factory with regard to fitting the center tub and the side pods is they all sort of go together. And the center tub sort of depends on the placement of the side pods and vice versa. And they're not really set in stone until you set them in stone. There's a few things when you set it up initially that help guide you, like these guiding lines I mentioned before. But it's really fitting the wheels and making sure that everything's good that helps finalize those positions. I didn't really mention that before in my fitting videos, basically because I just didn't have tires for these wheels. I used my 18-inch wheels for those. So I kind of lucked out here that the 19-inch wheels clear just fine. If we take the wheel through its arc again and we go full lock, so we're a little close up in here, there's nothing really in front. If I swing this all the way over, you can see that the tire contacts the center tub here, and actually it would also contact a beauty panel, a splash panel that goes right underneath it that helps enclose the wheel well and protect sort of the infrastructure behind it. So things like your water tubes, wiring, brake lines, etc. The factory provides little spacers that go into the rack here. And basically what they do is they change the rack stop. So it stops shorter now versus going the full, whatever it is, two turns lock to lock or something like that. Instead of coming here, it may stop here instead. I don't have my spacers put in yet. I still need to do that, and that's maybe a job for tomorrow's me. I just wanted to include a note that for the RS upgrades, the 19-inch wheels, etc., that they include these spacers on the rack to prevent the tire rub, at least up here on the inside. Now we're gonna lower the nose and we're gonna check fitment around the wheel arch. I still don't have my catches put in, but I'm probably gonna put them here so that most of the force is pulling the nose down, because that's the primary force acting on the nose, is to actually lift it up. You can see through the wheel vent that we're close, but we still have plenty of clearance. You can see there's still plenty of room down in this area, at least a finger's width with the wheels straight. It sounds like it's rubbing, but where is it rubbing? I think it's up in here, not actually down in the nose. Spinning the wheel there, I think we got clearance on the inside of the nose. However, if you look here, this is where we're actually rubbing. And so what I need to do is trim that flange back a little bit. So let's turn the tire the other way and see if it rubs on the front as well as the back here. And again, from the outside, you can see it's just right up on that flange. This is full bump too, by the way. So we can still hold our clamshell down, and we only have minor interference here. So we should be able to just trim that flange back. All right, and here we are. The tire's actually lifting the nose a little bit. This might be a little more than trimming the flange. You can see down in here, well, maybe we can get away with it. If I trim that flange back quite a bit, we might be able to just skirt the outside of the tire and keep it from putting any force into the body itself. It'll be really, really close, but I think it just might work. And then as you turn the wheel, you can see how that contact point moves up. So I've already made some marks here under the shell where I would need to clearance, and basically what I'll do is I'll sand this flange in or out, I should say, so that it comes out to meet this outside and then comes back in to meet this line down here. And it'll just be super thin, maybe even just this panel with I'll try and save this lip return, this kind of rounded edge, save that bit, but get as close to it as I can just by sanding this lip down. And then that should clear our 19s just fine. Let's check the 18s now and see how they look. With the 18 on the car, you can see that similar tightness that we had on the 19, although there's a little bit more room there. Like the 19, if we swing it all the way in, it would hit that same splash panel, the same area here. But again, with the rack adjustment for the rack stops, it'll come back and it should clear there. Spinning everything around. So it's a little tight here on the knuckle, but again, it wouldn't be that close. It would be just a little bit off of it. Everything up clear on the bottom, of course. So with the nose down, we have contact in the same area again up here under the fender. If you look, it's pretty much the same area here. I think we'll just need to trim that flange back a little bit. Likewise, we're still good here on top. We should clear up on the front of the tire, on the inside of the wheel bubble, the fender well here. If we swing the tire back, again, we have that same contact point up here. If we pull this guy down, everything's good until we start pulling the wheel over. And again, same contact area right up here. And again, I think if we shave this down, it'll be just fine. So this would be full compression on the front. This is the shock on the bump stop. Again, this would be pretty rare given how light the front of the car is. It's not particularly aero heavy either. Pretty much the only time you're going to see this is on the track, and only in very specific instances, particularly like I mentioned before, coming down the corkscrew at Laguna Seca, That really loads up the suspension because you're accelerating and it just drives the car into the ground. But given how light the nose is, it's unlikely that you'll have it actually this much compressed, even with the track springs on it. So I've got photos that show the splitter nearly touching the ground, but it doesn't actually rub on the outside of that corner. It compresses just enough to hover that front lip off the ground. So yeah, that'll cover the 18 and the 19-inch fitment on the nose here. I'll get to trimming the wheel arch tomorrow once I have a little bit more daylight and see if we can't make these tires fit a bit better. For now, I just want to do a quick comparison of the 18s versus the 19s. Part of that evolution versus RS comparison I've been doing from the previous video, and this time carrying on to the wheels to show what the upgrade gets you from one to the other. Really quick, while slinging the wheels and tires around, I'm still finding track rubber pickup on my 18s from the last track day that I did. However many years ago. Just goes to show it sticks around. The 18-inch wheels, this was one of many designs available in the 18s. That was, at the time, a relatively recent addition to the Ultima lineup, were different kinds of braid wheels. You could get them in a variety of finishes, from silver, kind of a darker silver, gold, and a gloss black, and I opted for matte black because I knew it would hide brake dust a bit better than the other options. The downside to a matte black is that you have to be careful how you clean it because it's anodized. If you use more aggressive wheel chemical products that reduce or remove brake dust, it can actually tear at the anodizing and ruin the anodized finish. So if you're cleaning wheels like this, I recommend just a soap and water to break it down, and just a lot of elbow grease. Unless somebody out there has a suggestion for a cleaner that's anodizing friendly. Like I mentioned before, the front tires on the 18s are 265/35, and the rears are 335/30. If I get down, you can actually see the difference on the old versus the new rears, that 335 versus a 305 tire. Again, you can see the difference between a 35 series and a 30 series in the sidewall between the 18 and the 19-inch wheels. The new 19-inch wheels have a different offset. They're a little bit narrower. The fronts are the same that I ordered. I opted for a slightly larger front size when I ordered my car, so this is a 10.5-inch front, and then likewise on the 19s it's also a 10.5-inch front. In the 18s, the rear was actually a 13-inch wide tire, versus on the new 19s it's only 11 inches wide. I say only, but that's still way too wide for even this car and its capabilities. It's just so light, it's going to be difficult to get heat into these usually. With the 18s as well as the 19s, they're still made by Braid. I just love these in-cut spoke designs. If you're not familiar with Braid wheels, Braid cut their chops with rally wheels. They've been making wheels for a very long time, and that's sort of their key industry is doing rally wheels for competition. Their forged wheels just really take a beating, and they keep going. I've abused the hell out of my 18s jumping curbs at the track, and they just keep ticking, never out of balance. Nothing, no bent spokes, no bent rims. They just take the abuse and they keep going. So I have high hopes for the 19s that they'll be able to take some of the road abuse driving around town, even with these smaller sidewall tires. Couple notable things on these 19s. You can see it's a deep dish design. It's, very concave, versus the 18-inch wheels, which were more of a flat face with a very deep inset hub. That presents a few challenges with regards to your lug nuts. I'm sure you saw the rears looked okay when I had them on the car, but on the fronts, with this deep inset design, it hides these deeper lugs more. But when I put them on this, a bit of a Ben-Hur chariot race kind of thing going on, where the lugs stuck out to be about even with the face of the wheel. And I'll be changing that is when I do put these on the car, I'll probably stick with the same longer wheel nuts in the rear and then switch to a shallow nut for the front, just so it'll sit in the indent here. I think that'll really do it for the comparison on the wheels. I just really wanted to highlight the differences of the Evolution wheels versus the RS wheels, to point out the differences on the two cars and what you get as a part of your upgrade. I will say that one of the bigger benefits of going with a 19-inch wheel size is tire availability. On the wide 18-inch wheels, tires are getting harder and harder to find, with really only a couple of options for the rear tires. For a 335 3018 rear tire, it's just getting scarce. Versus these 19-inch wheels, they have several fitments from Chevrolet, Porsche, Mercedes, whatever you name it. More and more cars have 19-inch tire sizes in these sizes, so these were a bit easier to come by. I think that's going to do it for today. Not really showing too much work on the car. Again, sorry for that, but I do want to point out the areas to trim, what to look for when you're building your own Ultima, and the sort of pitfalls that you might find when doing the body pre-fitment yourself. For now though, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.